Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's Scott Dillon here from the SAP Cloud Platform Garage. As most of you know, I work for the Center of Excellence covering North America as a territory. And today I find myself in Houston, Texas. So welcome, everyone. We've got a really good bunch of attendees, a really great cross-section of customers. So really excited to have everybody here. And I think I'm just going to put the first slide up. Today we're going to be covering UI5, and judging by the number of people we have attending today, it's clearly, I think, at top of mind for a lot of people. I think we have, I don't know, we're over probably getting close to 150 people now, which is amazing. 160, 165, which is amazing. And today, because I don't consider myself very knowledgeable about anything, so I always try to bring the smartest person that I can find to these sessions that most of you know. And so I'll just bring up our guest speaker. Our guest in the garage today is Michael Graf. Michael, what do you do for SAP?
Hi, everybody. So my name is Michael Graf, and I'm a product owner for SAP. And my main duties are to make consumption of UI5 and developer experience great. So I do a lot of training material, I do a lot of talks about UI5, and show people how easy it is to use this technology.
That's awesome. And I can tell you, everybody on the phone from experience, Michael knows this space really, really well. So I'm super excited to have him here today in the garage with me. So thank you, Michael, for coming, because I know it's late for you. So I know it's over and above your normal daily job. So thank you for that. So I guess the goal today, everybody, is we got a little bit of a different format because we wanted to make sure that today's unit was very consumable. So Michael has gone ahead and he's crafted a Git repository that I will publish on Twitter and LinkedIn. We're probably going to mail it out as well. So my Twitter handle is on the screen at the moment, Scott Dillon 1. Michael's is there as well. Micah Delix is there. But I will publish the link for the Git repository with a thanks for attending message on Twitter after this session. So you'll be able to follow through all the steps that we go through today. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically build a small project, which we're going to import. So we're going to import a small project from Git because we didn't think we had the time to do everything from scratch, but it's very basic. Based on the master detail template, we'll be using ES5 as the backdrop for that. So everybody knows, or not everybody knows, but I will tell you, ES5 is a public gateway server that we have on the internet. And so there's some instructions embedded in there on how to create a destination for that. And then you'll be able to do or import that project. And I think you even exported the destination, right, as well, Michael?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so hopefully it's very convenient for you guys, and you are free to follow along. So
exactly. So we'll just import that, and we'll get a starting point. And then from there, we're going to play around with a couple of the new controls that are coming in with the latest version of UI5 and talk a little bit about the relationship to Fiori and things like that. So it should be a really good session. So as you know, we always kind of do a quick poll to find out what's going on. So we'll take 30 seconds just to get a feeling for if this is your first time in the garage, your second time, et cetera, et cetera. So take 10 seconds, interact with the screen. Let us know if this is your first time attending or not. There's only two choices, yes and no, so not that complicated a survey today. And we'll give it 10 more seconds maybe. And then we'll flip to the results just so we all have an idea of if your first time here. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next one. So this is just your first time. Yes, 86%. It's your first time in the garage. I don't know if that's an accurate reading, but that's a lot. So for everybody that's here for the first time, welcome. Hopefully it's not your last time here because we've got some other good sessions coming up in the months to come. And we've been doing these for the last year. And all the content from all the previous sessions is on YouTube if you want to get out there and take a look. So next second poll question, and there's only 3 today, and we'll do the other one in a minute. Have you ever used or heard of UI5? And this is just to give Michael a little bit of context as to the level that we should go to today. We don't want to stay high level. That's not the intention of these sessions. As everybody that's been on here before, we want to do something real, show you some real code, that kind of stuff. So I'll give people 10 more seconds and then we'll pass it over to the results. Let's have a look. Have you ever used or heard of UI5? 82% have heard of UI5, Michael. So you're doing your job, Michael. It's basically what people are telling us here. So yeah, so we don't have to stay at the bottom, we can go, maybe we were talking yesterday, a little bit deeper with some of the explanations and stuff like that. So we don't have to be afraid of this crowd and the details we can give. Okay, so perfect. So I'm going to pop over to this slide here, Michael. You can basically give us a little description of what UI5 is, just to kind of elaborate for maybe some of the folks that have never heard of it, and then we can kind of go into some of your demonstration / explanation.
Okay, good. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, and I'm so happy that so many people are joining this call and are already heard of UI5. But just to give you a very rough basic outline, so it's the UI framework released by SAP. And it's based on HTML5, JavaScript, and other open standards like XML, OData, and so on. And it's designed as part of our UI strategy to create and easily publish enterprise-grade web applications. And now you might wonder, what's the difference between a web app and a web page, basically? And this is really a crucial difference, because a web application, it's targeted not only to read information or to consume information, but to work efficiently with this application and basically to publish products with this. And we at SAP, we use it very widely for our new applications and innovations. And that's why I want great enterprise features we have in store. And that's also where the difference between a web page and a web app might become more clear then.
So just one subtle point there. So something that I get asked a lot as I'm traveling across North America, customers say, well, I don't understand, like these enterprise features that you refer to, what would be one example of an enterprise feature that people will find certainly in UI5, but is not often found in some of the other frameworks that are, which there are many, right? There's many out there for free that you can download. But what would be an example of just one enterprise feature that you think is like bubbles at the top in terms of importance?
Yeah, so most of those frameworks, they focus very much on the UI part, so defining the UI. But actually, UI5 goes a little bit beyond the scope. It also defines product standards like accessibility and translation. So it's very easy to convert such an app to a different language and to adjust it to the people's needs, basically. So if you have visually impaired users, then you can switch to a high contrast theme, and then people can still use this application, even though they might have difficulties to use a normal software. And these are some qualities that are integrated in the framework.
Right, so you don't have to import anything extra to do that. It's just there. So people start using UI5, they build their app, and they think of it as an afterthought, oh, I have to do a different language. It's just right there that comes as a part of one of the features, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's basically also a necessity for our products because we ship them on a global level. So we need those qualities in our software, and everybody using UI5 can also benefit from this.
Right, that's awesome.
I'll show an example in a second.
Okay. Just one other thing that I think is really important, just for one of the topics that comes up often for me in my travels is SAP UI5 now, it's its own independent product, right, at SAP. It has its own release cycle. It used to be that in the old days with ECC, if you wanted a new UI, you had to wait for the release of ECC, but now UI5 is evolving on its own. Is that correct?
It's true. So we have monthly releases, and with OpenUI5, which is the open source version of it, we even have daily pushes and a nightly build, basically. So you can follow us along very clearly what we do with our product. And there's lots of stuff coming in every release. So it's really interesting to see those new features also that are coming every month.
Yeah, that's incredible. And you just mentioned one other thing, which we won't go into the details on that because people can look it up themselves, but you did mention it was open source. And this is not something that SAP does very often, right? We actually open source this UI layer, correct?
Yeah, so the core of the framework and most of the UI controls, they are open source and they are free to use even without an SAP license. So you can create whatever kind of projects you need. Of course, it integrates very nicely with what we have taken care of as well. But we wanted to be very close to the community and also, give new options for using this technology, and that's why we went open source. And we have a really great community that we work together with.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so I think enough chatter. Let's get you to show us some stuff. Occasionally you're breaking up, and I know there's nothing you can do to change that, but sometimes you break up for me occasionally in your, so make sure we just keep a nice, you are talking perfectly, so just let you know, but sometimes you break up, but I'll let you know if you break up more. So you're going to hit the screen share and you're going to show us a few things, right, that are relevant in this demo kit that we have. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, so we didn't talk too much about our set of controls, so I want to show you a little bit what we have there.
Okay.
And can you see my screen already?
Maybe someone can post in the group chat if they can see the screen, please, if you wouldn't mind. I'm seeing it now in my audience view, so I'm assuming people can see it. Please just put a note in the group chat, someone, if they can see it. Yes, we're good. Yep, on your way.
Okay, very cool. So I just switched over to our official documentation, which you can find on ui5.sap.com. It's also often referenced as the demo kit because it has all the documentation, all the samples, and so on. And here you can also find these key features again that we have just talked about. But I want to show you some nice details here. And I'm going over to these samples. And they show the large variety of controls that we have. So controls are small, independent, reusable assets, like a button, for example. And that's no surprise. Every UI framework should have some basic controls, often also mentioned as bread and butter controls. Of course, we have those. But one really strength of UI5 is that we have over 400 of different controls and also very specialized things for business cases, to implement business cases. So, for example, if I want to have something like a filter on a table, then I can use this icon tab bar, and it comes with a predefined layout to filter this table down there. And there's a lot of examples here, and you can just very easily copy over this code from this example and adjust it to your application. So that's one strength of UI5, is that you really can, in a very short time, you can implement a really large functionality in your application. Just to make this point a little bit more clear, we also have very nice composite controls, like a wizard, for example.
So, Michael, just for those people that have never done development before, what exactly is a composite control?
So that's very nice to answer with this screen that you see here. So we have here a button and some kind of label and text. And these are also UI5 controls that you can use individually. But here we have combined them to a composite called wizard. So we can define steps for this wizard. We can define validation for input fields and so on. And we can very easily make, like a guided procedure in our application with this control. And that's really a benefit of these feature-rich controls, because other frameworks, usually you need to implement this on your own. And with UI5, we make sure that this is all looking nicely, fits together very, very nice, and is easy to implement.
So SAP provides a handful of composite controls, and then my assumption would be, I'm assuming right, that the customer could build also their own composite.
That's also possible. We show it in our tutorials. So this is also one section that I would like to recommend, especially for people new to UI5. And there we show basically all the basics and stuff like control and how to build good applications.
Great. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that you and your team did the initial Open UI5 course. And in the month of May, we have another one that's starting up, which I think you told me we had something like 7,000 or 8,000 people already registered for that course, and it's not even started yet, right?
Yeah, that's true. So it starts 8th of May. So I would like to invite you to join this course. You can also see me here in this intro video.
Perfect.
And it's basically, it's the latest and greatest training material that we have. And it's a 4-week course. It's online training. It's free. So that's definitely a recommendation if you want to dig deeper in UI5.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay,
and we
great.
just hit the 12,000 people mark here, I saw. So
wow. Okay, so it's gone up a little bit in the last week. Holy smokes. Okay, that's amazing.
So yeah, if you want to explore a little bit more on your own, also that we have some really nice demo apps here, and we're going to use also one of these demo apps now in these steps we're going to do together. But I just wanted to show you one. We have a nice shopping cart application, which basically resembles a shopping scenario. And here, if we want to show one of these enterprise-grade features, I can just, and I can see that everything is black and white, and the contrast is really nice for users that might have difficulties seeing things. So that's just one thing that I wanted to show here as an example for enterprise-grade features.
Right, because that's not something that anybody has to code in, right? It just, you build your app, and then this is a feature that comes along for the ride, more or less.
Mm-hmm. So the design and all these capabilities, they come from the framework, and you don't need to worry about it when you use UI5. That's the main advantage, and that saves also a lot of development time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so we're at the 17-minute after the hour mark, and we've got about a half an hour of demo to do, right? Or we're going to build a small app. Do we want to start with that now?
Sure. Yeah, let's go ahead.
All right. So do you want to stop sharing?
Mm-hmm. Let's do that. Okay. Hope for it.
Okay, and I'm going to start screen share, and we'll see if this works. Change that so people can let me know in the group chat if you now see my screen. I'm hoping I can. Yep. Okay, perfect. All right, off to the races. So I always start, Michael, from the, can you see my screen, Michael, in the audience view?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can see it too.
Awesome. Awesome. So let me, got kicked out again. Let's go back in. So there's no question that we're doing everything. I like to say we're working without a net here. So everything is live. People see the ins and outs, and they just saw me get kicked out, and I had to go back in with a refresh. Okay, so we always start from the same place, Michael, so people know exactly when they repeat or when they come in, where they need to go. So for step number one, we need to find the service. So when you log into the cockpit and you drill into your account, you see the services tab on the left. And then if we go to web IDE or just web, you'll see now there's only one option that remains. We used to have two web IDEs, but now it's just the web IDE full stack. So I'll click on that one, and I will go to service, and it's going to start my web IDE. And the one thing I didn't do, Michael, is I didn't copy the URL for the the Git repository. So I need to go. Now I need to go find it. Is it maybe here? I didn't count on that. Okay, here.
There it is. Yeah.
Got it. So let's get rid of that. People are going to make fun of me because I have so many emails. Okay, so let's just put that in there. So we'll get back to that. Okay, so here we have the web IDE, and people can see clearly on my screen that I've got, quite a few projects going on that I play with all the time just to make sure I'm up to speed on all things SAP Cloud Platform. But what Michael has done, for those of you that have not played around with Git too much, he's created a Git repository using GitHub, which you can see right here. And when you're looking at this screen, there's a clone or download button on the right-hand side. And if you click the little copy button on the right, we're going to grab that URL as a starting point, go back to the web IDE, right-click on the workspace, and say Git clone repository. Drop that URL in there and say clone. And fingers crossed, barring any network issues, it says clone complete. Now, Michael, I got this message the other day, and you said, just do it later. So I'm going to hit do it later. No problem. And then I think the next step that you told me to do, once I've got this garage session in place, I can then, I think I need to add a branch, right? So I need to go here maybe. I click the plus, I believe. Go to the Git pane. And the source branch is origin start. And I can just leave it as start, right, as the branch name.
Yep. So that's basically the starting point for the session, and the master contains the end version.
Right. So this is important for people to know if they get in there and they're having problems or they make a typo or whatever, they do have access to the finished project in that Git repository, right, which is really good to know. So just one other thing I will highlight to people. So if I go back here quickly, underneath connectivity, underneath destinations, just in case you're brand new to this, which I don't think most people are, but just in case, you will need this destination called ES5. You will need this set up in order for this project to run. So provided you have imported this, because Michael's provided it, but you'll need to have your own username, your own password. There's a very simple registration process on the internet that describes that. You know, just to Google it, registering for ES5, you'll find that. Get that in there, get it created, and then I believe, Michael, if it works like it worked the last couple of days, if we just run it, one of the things that we were talking about yesterday, which was a bit of a mystery to me, why, Michael, are there so many options here in terms of choose file to run? Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So this project, it has basically been created from a template. And the template is always set up according to our latest best practices. And here we have different starting points for development and for productive use. So for example, the mock server file, it's for testing the application without a real backend service. So it's basically running the application with generated data, which is very handy for development because it's faster and it's independent of the backend service, which might be down or unavailable at that time.
Okay.
And another thing that is really important is tests for your application code, because you also want to make sure that it doesn't break in the future. So we have integration and unit tests shipped with this template code as well. And those are the other.
Okay, that's cool. So people get a head start on their unit testing here.
Exactly. So the template comes with unit tests that match the template code, of course. You need to extend it if you extend the application, but it's a good starting point for a high-quality application.
I see. Okay, cool. And then we've got this index HTML. Okay,
so that's
the main file.
The main part, exactly. So
okay.
Hopefully this works.
Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot and see. I mean, the only thing that could possibly happen here is if ES5 happened to take a nosedive and not be available. And if that's the case, we'll switch to the mock server and give that a try. But it looks like we got some data coming back. So just to elaborate for 30 seconds, Michael, which template was this? I think you mentioned it was the master detail template, correct?
Yeah. So this was the SAP Fiori master detail template, and it's based on a two-column layout. So if you click on a product, it will open basically a second column displaying the details. And there's different floor plans, they are called, defined in the Fiori design guidelines. This is the design that we implement with UI5. And master detail is one of them. So we provide templates for the most common use cases. And there's also templates that are smart, they are called. They are feeded by backend service configuration, and templates that are freestyle. This one, for example, it's based on coding, and you can customize it based on your needs.
Right.
So you can, depending on your scenario, you can pick if you want to have a freestyle implementation of your app or a pre-configured one. Right.
So for someone like myself who doesn't really have many creativity skills, I know I've been made fun of quite a bit for this. So I'm, left align for me is pretty creative. So for me, I probably want to stick with the template, but I think you and some of your team members are pretty creative. So they would maybe go with a freestyle and it'll lay things out exactly the way they want to, right? So they have both options. So freestyle versus templated, both are supported, both are condoned, and as a condoned approach by SAP. Okay, this is cool. So we have a really cool titler, garage sale, like that, Michael. Good for putting that in there. But we want to modify this app, right? we want to take the time today to modify this app. And of course, this one is this flexible column layout. Can you just talk maybe for 10 or 20 seconds about that? Because that's relatively new, right? Because the previous template, maybe last year or the year before, it was kind of fixed, whereas this one is like a 1/3, 2/3 kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's based on the flexible column layout, which is a fairly new layout that has been introduced, I guess, mid of last year. And you can basically define as a user which area you want to focus on. So with those arrows, between the views, you can basically maximize this area and open it. And you can also close the detail screen again if you want to go back to this initial list of products. So this is all functionality from the layout, basically. And the good thing is that we cannot only do 2 columns, but we could do also a 3rd column for even more details on these business objects that we display here.
Gotcha. Okay, that's pretty cool. And one thing I did notice yesterday when I was playing with this, for those of you that are not familiar with it, this is it's kind of fixed in position, right? So as I'm scrolling, which is kind of nice, the header stays there. It doesn't disappear anymore.
Yeah, so this is called a sticky header. And if you scroll all the way to the top, you can also see that in the initial state, there's more information. And if you scroll down, there's less information, which saves some screen space. And you can freely configure whatever content is displayed in this area.
Very cool. And also this footer bar, it has a couple of buttons in it, and you can actually see the data passing through. That's also kind of a cool concept, this floating footer bar.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
So what's maybe also worth mentioning is we already switched to the new Fiori 3 design in this application. It's not as blue anymore as it might be known by many of you. So the Fiori 3 design is more reduced.
So then the template,
the accent colors and so on comes better.
Okay, sorry, you broke up there for maybe 15 seconds, Michael. We didn't hear what you had to say. So I say we switched to the Fiori 3 template. So just a quick question on that. So when someone uses the default template in the Web IDE now for master detail, do they automatically get the Fiori 3 template by default?
Not yet at the moment. That will come in the next month. So we just finished this one. And I just switched this application we built today to the new theme so that you can already see it and get a preview. Okay, cool. So this is something that they could do as well. Exactly. So you just need to adjust the theme parameter to the new one, and then it's already working. Okay, very nice. Okay, so what we're going to do, I think, Michael, our intention is we're going to modify this app now within the Web IDE. We're going to do a little bit of coding here, and we're going to add a 3rd column, right, to this app. That's the intention. Mm-hmm. Yes, provided I follow your instructions really closely. Okay, cool. All right, so let's pop back here for a second. And okay, so let's get rid of that pane. Okay, cool. All right, so please direct me, Obi-Wan. Okay, so everything we need for this project is in below the web, then later deployed also to the cloud. So open this one. Sorry, you broke up there. I'm opening this one. I'm sorry for that. So the web app folder, the content of this folder will actually be deployed to the cloud later. So everything we need is below this folder. Gotcha. And here we have folders resembling the model view controller structure. So we have views in XML format, we have controller files, and we have some helper things in the model folder. Okay. And what we usually start with is to enrich the UI a little bit, and then we add some controller logic to implement a new feature. Awesome. So in this case, we need some kind of trigger to open the 3rd page. So here we want to have on the detail page just a button. Okay. So I'm going to open up the detail page, and people can see here that it's already filled out with the current page. And I believe, just for folks to know, when you go back,
in the Git repository that we're going to publish after, you will see that everything is published in here along with some directions. So you can see Michael's put together these nice clear instructions, and he's got the source code here. So we're going to take this button, and I think you say place it at the end of the semantic header content, but you're going to keep an eye on me just to make sure. So this is going to go right here after the vertical layout. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right.
So this is also with the applications because it's XML and it's interchangeable, basically. That's one of the benefits of this format.
Okay. So now what? We have a button that will pop up on that screen. I'm assuming if I were just to save this and refresh the app, I would see it, right?
Hopefully, yes.
Okay, let's go back and see. So if I just do a refresh on this app, and just for folks that are watching for the first time and playing with WebID for the first time, you don't have to close down your browser window. You can just do a refresh inside, and voila, we see a new button called Info. But clearly, we want to have another button that's more appropriate in today's most amazing garage session. This is more like it, I think. Save that. Just make sure that we get the right button and the right label. Yeah, that's better. I'm liking that. Yep. Okay, so now what? We need to have actually do something with the button when we push it, right?
Yeah, so we could do this all by hand now and add some coding, but this would be very tedious work. And one of these things that really boosts your developer efficiency is also great tooling. And WebID, it's a tool for developing UI5 apps. So now we really want to explore these tools a little bit and extend our application with that. So Scott, if you could switch over to this storyboard perspective.
Right. So we've got, just for people to know, like on the left-hand side, there's a bunch of different perspectives now that are starting to be, as WebID evolves more and more, our various SAP Cloud Platform teams are injecting different perspectives. So here we can see the mobile development kit perspective, and the one that Michael's referring to is the storyboard perspective. So I'll pick that one. And it should show us kind of a graphical representation of the projects that I have. I apologize, I have so many, but that drills into then the project called Garage Sale. Beautiful.
Yeah. So I like this perspective a lot because even though we don't know this project, it's very easy to see the structure of the views and which view is actually connected to the other views.
Right. Okay.
And in this
so
case,
we want to add a new view, right?
This button. Mm-hmm. So we added this button, and we want a new view to be triggered when we click the button, basically.
Okay. And I think in your instructions, you say to call it, back here on the GitHub, you say to call it info. So we'll call it info. Yeah. And we just leave everything else the same, right?
Yeah, so just the defaults.
Finish. Okay. All right, now we have a new view down here. It's all kind of off by itself. It's unrelated to anything else, but that's only temporary. So how do we connect that info view to this detail view?
So we go to the detail view, and then you press this arrow button, which is labeled configure navigation, I guess.
Yep, yes. Perfect.
And then now we need to find our trigger control, which is this button.
I'm guessing it might be this one, most amazing garage session.
Garage session button. Here it is.
Perfect.
And okay. Press event is fine, but we want to navigate now to this new view you just created.
Okay, navigate to info. And then what is this here? Open target at.
So the target is usually the root control of the application. Here it has detected it's a flexible column layout, and then we need to select begin, mid, or end. And now you might wonder why it's not start, left, or right or something, because it's also right to left support that we support with UI5. So we name it begin, end, that it could be any direction, basically.
That's pretty clever, Michael. And so I guess you said something interesting there. So with WebIDE, it actually does the work of kind of introspecting the page, determining what kind of control or what kind of layout, and then it automatically prompts for that, right? Because it doesn't have to be this smart. You could just directed towards a page, but we're actually directing it to the right place in the right place with the control. So that's pretty cool. So we'll select end column, and that's it.
Clever in this, analyzing your application and giving you some context and guidance here.
Yeah, it's nice. All right, configure. Boom. Was now not by himself anymore. He's moved from the bottom left and he's been attached to this view, which is kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Good. So that's basically the navigation that has been set up now. That's fully working at the moment. The only thing we still need to do is instruct this new page to be switched to the 3-column layout, basically, because at the moment the template is only showing 2 columns, and that's something we need to add to the controller.
Okay. So I'll go back to my workspace, and we'll bring up the controller for the info, the controller for the new view that was added called info, correct? Mm-hmm. And now I believe
so. This is a template file. Just to save some time, you might want to.
You broke up there. We didn't hear anything you said the last 15 seconds. Sorry.
Okay, I'm really sorry for this connection issues, but I do my best.
yeah, it's all good. We're going to work through it.
Mm-hmm. Good. So this is basically an empty controller generated by this view dialog that we used before.
Mm-hmm.
And now we only want to have something happening after navigating to this info view. And there's just a little bit of code to be added. I also put it in the instructions.
Yeah.
So maybe you can just take this over and then we can explain it a little bit.
Exactly. Okay, perfect. So I'll go back to here. I'm going to take everything. So everybody that's watching and repeating the session after we finish today, just take that whole block, copy, paste it, beautify. You just right click and say beautify, and away you go. Boom, it's kind of been formatted properly. And so, Michael, tell us about this bunch of what I consider to be a whole bunch of gobbledygook with getting routers and attaching patterns. What exactly is going on here?
So basically UI5 it's based on eventing, and we have an instance called route application figures. It makes sure that the right page is displayed when the user clicks on something. And we have route patterns. So we get the route info and we attach to the pattern matched event of this one. And this function is called whenever the route is hit, basically. So whenever the user clicks the button.
Okay.
And here we use another feature that we haven't talked about yet. It's data binding. So we set a property of a model and just say we now want a 3-column layout, basically.
I see.
And this property is bound in the view, and it will automatically update basically the view to show the 3rd column.
Very cool. So with this 3 lines of code and with the new view that we've added and the button that's now attached to that event, we should be able to get the button activating that 3rd panel. Is that accurate?
I hope so. That's right.
Okay, cool. So I think it's people can see that it's already gone to light gray, so it's already automatically saved. But one of the things you mentioned to me yesterday when we were preparing is that one of the other features of this is you can do, I forget the word, is it deep nested URLs? So if someone's on a particular page or a certain point in the app, you can kind of save that. Is that true? I don't know if I explained that properly.
Yeah. So this is basically, if you go to the manifest, we can quickly...
Hold on. This is right here, right? Yeah.
The manifest.json file. And you scroll all the way down to the bottom. Then there should be a routing section.
Yep.
Here we are. And basically, we can maybe also see this info route that we just created. So if you go down a little bit more, there it is. So it's basically a route named info, and it also has a URL pattern. And if you see the one above, the it has also parameters. So we can basically match the URL to our application state and then send also a link to a colleague or bookmark this application. So this is also a standard feature of UI5 apps.
I see. So if you had, I see. So if you had if you were scrolling through the table of products and you were clicked into a certain product, then we can send the URL specific to that point in the table, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so let's just go back and have a quick look here. So I'm going to do a little refresh, just to make sure everything's going good so far. And Michael, we're pretty good on time. We got 19 minutes left to get that panel populated. So that's not too bad. We're doing good. So if I click the button now, okay, cool. So people can see with, a little bit of work in the storyboard and about 3 or 4 lines of code, we've now triggered the visibility, I would say, of the third panel. And we have this titled empty panel, right? Okay, this is good. Now what?
Cool. All right, so let's add some more content to this panel, I would say.
Good idea.
And again, we could do this just in the code and type the stuff, but here we also want to use a tool called Layout Editor. So you can either access this from the storyboard editor, or if you right-click on the view, then. And this is basically what you see is what you get.
Okay. I'll just minimize this a bit here so I can see more. Okay, so we have this title screen. So let's just, right off the bat, let's see now. There's a bit of a theme here. Most amazing garage session. All right, cool. All right, so we got that. Most amazing. And we want to put, what do we want to put at the very top here?
So usually we work with sections. So I suggest adding a container like a panel, for example.
Okay.
So there's different
options. And what would I do that?
Options here. A panel is really nice control because it has this expand collapse feature. So people who are not interested in the panel content, they can just collapse it. And it's also, it has a title where you can put more details on the content, basically.
Okay. So it gives you a bit of flexibility.
Options.
Sorry. It just gives you a bit of flexibility when you're, as a user, when you get the display. If you want to trim down the stuff that you see, the panel gives you the ability to expand and collapse pretty easily because it's all embedded in that panel.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Okay. So we can delete this text panel content. It's just dummy content, basically. And in our case, let's say we want to have a larger version of this product image here. Mm-hmm. So we can just drag and drop an image control inside here.
Okay, hold on. Let me find the image control. Let's try that right here. Does that look about right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I know one trick for myself when I've been playing with images to get them to display right, you kind of put the width at 100% and you delete the height so that it renders kind of to scale or the way that it should be rendered, right? Okay.
So anyway, percentage width is anyway good because we have responsive apps and you don't really know how big the screen size of your users is. So it's always good to have this percentage numbers here.
Okay.
Good. So that looks a little bit blurry. So maybe we want to switch the picture here.
Yeah, probably. So how do we do that?
So basically, I implemented this in the master view. So let's just take this code over and apply the view. I would suggest.
Okay. So the master view, where is that located?
It's in the list item, basically. So this consists of list items. Speed down. Yeah, here it is. And here we have this icon property. It's also using data binding again. So it has a path to the data and a formatter that converts the URL. And you can just copy basically this declaration.
I'm copying including what's in the double quotes or just everything?
Yeah, just the double, this. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, perfect. And I'm going back to the info view, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going back to the code, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it's a little bit easier in the code here. So you can just replace this source attribute with the new syntax. So if you're familiar with HTML, might be very very similar, but this is a UI5 control tree that we define. So we can also use this data binding syntax that is parsed by UI5.
Okay, cool. Does that look about right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so, right? Okay, so that should render now, okay, inside that app?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, so maybe that's grayed out. Let's just go see. Because I don't trust myself. I trust you, but I don't trust myself, even the cut and paste when it comes to writing code. So it's, let's just go back one page so people see what's going on. Okay, cool. So now we have a product that, as we got the suitcase. It should be.
Yeah, I cheated a little bit. It's a random picture. So.
Oh, I see. Okay. Gotcha. It's all good. It's all good. Okay, so we have the image though showing up, and it's the right size here, so that's fine. Mm-hmm. Okay, very neat. So let's go back. Let's keep flushing this out a little bit because we want to add something now below that, right? We want to introduce, I think, something else, another new object element, object control.
So we could now add more containers and more content, of course, and also connect this to entities in the service that we use. But and it's one of the Fiori 3 patterns that are just evolving and getting more popular. So my suggestion would be to add one of those cards here to the page.
Okay. Now you showed me the other day where to find that. Can you refresh my memory on what link I should use to go see that? Is it open?
So it's again ui5.sap.com from our documentation.
Okay. And then I think it was from here. Where do I go on the documentation link?
So yeah, just go to documentation, and if you're interested in the latest stuff that we released, then just go to what's new, basically.
Okay.
And here, so 164 is the version where all the Fiori 3 things are introduced. And here you can see that we have this new SAP F card control. Cards are something that might be known from the Launchpad and a concept called Overview page. And it has been opened up now with a control that can be custom filled with any content that we like.
Very nice. It's a nice looking control for sure. Okay, so then if I want to, should I go to the sample link then?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, here it's most easy to just copy this code from the example and then modify it to our use case.
Okay, so for people that have never been on this site before, normally when you see any sample for that matter, not just the F card, in this case, there's three little, I call it the hamburger menu item, whatever I call it, the hamburger. So you have the hamburger here on the right-hand side, this menu option, you click it, and then it shows you the source code. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to grab just the code that's within the F card bracket, right? In the F card section.
So we need to adjust it a little bit, of course, because it's different data, but it should work fine.
Okay, perfect. So let's get to, and we have a namespace issue as well, right, which we'll talk about in a second. So I'll go back, and where do I want to place this? This is in the info view, so where do I actually place the card? Is it after the panel, right?
Maybe
after the
panel, I would say. Mm-hmm.
But before
so it's also kind of a container, so I would put it after the panel.
Okay. And so, but before the end content, right? So it's end content is here, and we have this panel. Okay, cool. But then we also have, just so we don't forget, we have some other namespaces that we need to bring in, right? So can you quickly explain what namespaces are?
Yeah. So basically, namespaces, they so there's different control libraries with different purpose, and the namespaces, they basically define which control libraries you want to use in your application. So SAP M is usually the default namespace because all the bread and butter and basic controls are in there. But the Fiori controls, they are in the SAP F namespace. So and there's a sub namespace, also card, SAP F cards. Yeah. And what we also want to use is this info label control, and it's in the TNT, which is the Fiori for Tools library. So we just declare some new libraries, and then we're ready to use them.
So I'll take all of these. These are the ones that I need, right, with one extra. So I'll take these, I'll bring it over, and then we'll take out the ones we don't need.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
And what I normally do, just so I can see it, now again, this is probably not a pure developer technique, but I just kind of put them visually so I can see what the heck's going on. And then I kind of paste them in like this, and I'm going to beautify it. It's going to put them all back, but at least I can see, because we have M is already there.
We have already.
I don't need that one. F cards,
and the core is unused, I think, but it doesn't really matter. So yeah.
It's not used, but I don't use it. I'm going to take it out. Okay, so basically sap.f, f.cards, and sap.tnt. Now, Michael, just for 30 seconds, can you just tell people, like, this namespace idea and some of the work that went on with the Evo project? For those of you who haven't heard about it, UI5 Evolution, there was a lot of work that was done by the engineering team to kind of make these namespaces or make these components or containers smaller, right, to kind of contain less. So when people are building an application, it only downloads what it needs. Is that accurate? I probably didn't describe that very well, but maybe you can go over top.
Yeah, it's very accurate. So we had this innovation project called UI5 Evolution last year, and one of these efforts was to have smaller chunks of libraries and code to be loaded. And if you use these libraries, then it's very efficient from a resource consumption perspective. So it only loads the stuff that you need in your application.
Awesome. And that's going to be touched on in the Open UI5 course, which is going to be really, really interesting, I think, for people that are hardcore UI5 people. Okay, so let's move on here. So we got this F card we just put in here. What do we need to change about this? Do we want to copy some code from the repository that you built?
We can, and then maybe go through the changes. So it's basically the data binding adjusted to our service.
Okay.
And then basically pick some fields that work. So in this example, I just searched for a nice example and thought it would be nice to show a list of customers who bought this product, basically.
Okay. So I can grab this code for the card, and basically what I'm saying is I'm going to replace everything just in terms of time. If anybody else it copies it in either from the sample or from the repository, it's still going to work. It's just that this one has the binding to the products, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which we can see here.
We have to check. I think it's wrong coding. Let me check again.
It's all good.
Because let's check. No, actually, it's the code is not working because it should be products, something with products.
Products?
Probably I messed that up. You need to scroll down a little bit. It's the next box, basically. It's the next box in the solution.
Oh, here. Okay. So let's grab this one.
Yeah. So basically, this is where I adjusted it to an entity called contact set, and this contains people that have purchased some items, basically.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if you take a look at the list, then here we have a different path than in this initial example.
Okay. And one other small point.
The same. It's just
back here, I think you put a panel. So do we want to put a panel around it?
We could do so. Then we would also have like a collapsible stage, but we don't really need it. So
okay, perfect. So this should be okay. No, this is great. So anything else to change here?
I think we're fine. I just renamed it to customers basically and gave it a subtitle and added some data binding fields here like address and name and so on. So we can take a look maybe in the running application.
Right, and this, of course, this is the data binding, and people will learn all about that in the UI5 session, either the original one that you did with OpenSAP or the latest and greatest one that's coming out. Okay, so let's pop over here. Let's do a refresh and see if we have a card with some data in it.
Yeah. So data binding, basically, it defines a template, and it's repeated as often as the data is available on the backend system. So that's why it's so handy. So you can see here it's a long list of people, but we only specified the template once.
Gotcha. So clean, though. Clean, rounded edges. Really like the way that looks. So cool. Okay. All right. So is there anything else we want to change about this app? Or are we good?
guess for this column, we're pretty good. What we could do is add a new feature, which is drag and drop, if you like. So we can make the list of products on the left side draggable.
I would love to do that. Do we have time? Can we do it in 3 minutes?
Sure. This is a standard configuration, so we just need to define drag and drop configuration, basically.
Okay, so this is in here as well, right? Enable drag and drop. So I just need this. I need this little bit of code right here. It's within the list.
Yeah, so it's an aggregation of the list, and you just need to say which items are allowed to be dropped, basically.
Okay, so I got to go back to the master view, I think I saw. And it's going where exactly?
Just all the way to the top, I guess.
Yeah, there's the list right there.
Yeah, so right after this list tag.
So right after the items, like it goes, right after the beginning list tag, you mean?
It doesn't matter. So inside the list tag, but for example, before this info toolbar. No, not in the attributes, but inside the tag. So a little bit more down.
How far down? Like right after here, you mean? Before the info toolbar?
Yeah. Yeah. So the tag, basically it has attributes, but we want to put it in the content here.
Okay. Perfect.
Here, basically, we say we want to make the items droppable and draggable. And then we have an event handler called onReorder that is called when the drag is finished.
Okay, there it is there, drop on reorder. Okay, and then we got to take this other bit of code, right, in the controller.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
The namespace we also need. We also need the drag and drop namespace.
Oh, yes, good one. We're under the crunch now, Michael. We got to get this finished. So let's go back up top. No pressure. We got 1 minute because I try to keep people like on the target here on their time. So I'm gonna grab this function on reorder. I'm gonna take that. And
so
I
in this function,
that...
you would normally send basically the data back to the system. Here, in our case, we just update the UI just to make it a very brief example.
Okay, so I can put this basically anywhere, right?
Anywhere, just outside the functions. Yeah, so there is fine.
Okay, and then save that. I just want to run it just so people can. Oh, yes.
Add a comma in the end.
Got it. Yep.
There you go.
Perfect. And let's do this a little quick retry, and then we got to wrap it up quickly. Okay, hold on. Get this going here. Boom. So what you're telling me is if that worked, I should just take this guy and like pop it down. Look at that. That is so cool. Drag and drop in UI5. I'm so impressed.
Yeah, so that's a very nice way to increase your user experience. Just add some drag and drop events here, and it's very nice. That is so awesome. So.
Very awesome. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my desk for 1 second. I'm going to pop up the storyboard here. I want to bring people to. We always have a poll at the end of all of our sessions. If you found today interesting, we don't market to people after these sessions, but if you want to follow up directly with myself and or Michael, talk about a coming up project, if just things that you're unclear of how to make your project successful, answer yes to this and I will follow up in the next week. So you can do that at your own leisure. And then, of course, what's also important, the upcoming sessions, we've got the conclusion or the part 2 of our enterprise messaging service that we started 2 months ago. We're going to finish that up in May. And then in June, we're going to do ABAP in the cloud. And then we're going to do the Apple iOS SDK on July 24th. So lots of different enablement coming up. I want to take a moment to say thank you, of course, to Michael for spending his time with us today and sharing some of his expertise. Clearly, there's a lot of that, and we just scratched the surface a little tiny bit, so we might have to get you back in the future. And then if you have any questions, any comments, of course, write me, text me, get a hold of me on Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn. All those are valid options. And hopefully we'll see you next time in the garage. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. Have a great, amazing day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.